A nice end to the day near Horsetooth Reservoir. The warm spring weather will stick around tomorrow. We'll take it, right, Corey Reppenhagen?
Yeah, and we'll have very similar temperatures, but it might feel a little better tomorrow because those winds won't be so stiff and it won't be as cold, though, at least those winds. So here's the current wind gusts. We can start to see those diminishing a little bit. This is kind of the range that we'll be in tomorrow through the day. The foothills will have another rocking night tonight, 50 to 60 mile per hour gusts. Up here on the northern front range, starting to simmer down just a little bit more, but they will also be in the 15 to 30 mile per hour wind range tomorrow. Temperatures really comfortable here in the Denver metro area, in the 50s, middle 50s here across the town for right now. The snow showers here in the mountains will start to diminish as we go into sunrise tomorrow, in between this storm system that's been impacting us for a couple of days and the next one. So Friday will be our break in between as we get a lot of sunshine here in Denver. Temperatures up there about 71, 72 degrees for tomorrow, and the winds being a little bit lighter. That's going to help us out tomorrow. That's going to be a great day. I'll tell you about the next storm system coming this weekend, coming up here in just a few minutes.
Today we learned a brief outage at Colorado's main air traffic control center left pilots unable to communicate with controllers for about 90 seconds on Monday.
Not a great situation, but the kind of thing you want to learn more about. So let's bring in 9 News reporter Ria Jha, who's spoken with our aviation expert for some insight on this. Ria?
Yeah, it's the latest FAA equipment failure. And just this week, Colorado's Democratic Senator John Hickenlooper questioned FAA officials, saying Coloradans want reassurance that flying is safe. And the FAA says it is. I spoke with our aviation expert who explained why. Flying at 30,000 feet can be scary enough. 9 News aviation expert Greg Feith gets that recent news hasn't helped that fear.
Now, unfortunately, because it is a very complex subject, it is very hard to talk about in a 30-second soundbite.
On Monday, a 90-second transmitter outage at Colorado's Longmont Control Center cut off pilot communication across airspace spanning 9 states. Greg, you can imagine what people are thinking.
The thought is, oh my gosh, if we lose radio communication, these airplanes are just going to be flying off into the wild blue yonder, and that is simply not true.
Thankfully, the emergency communication system kicked in. But what if it didn't?
If you lose communication, you stay on your route of flight because the system, the FAA has already determined and they've already cleared you to go from point A to point B by way of a specific route. And as long as you stay on that route, then there is no risk of collision.
And all said in under 30 seconds. Greg says the outage could have happened for several technical reasons, but what's more concerning to him is a similar 90-second outage that happened in Newark just last week.
Was this a one-off? Was it an isolated event? Or is this just a precursor to a larger systemic problem? That's what needs to be investigated.
The FAA is still investigating, but in the meantime, if you're nervous about flying, just remember, Greg isn't.
Again, I have no issues with getting on an airplane tomorrow and flying point A to point B on any commercial carrier. They have a highly trained crew.
The Longmont Center handles communication for nearly 5,000 flights a day, and while no one was ever in danger, back-to-back outages here and in New Jersey are pushing the FAA to take a closer look at the systems it relies on. Ria Jha, 9 News.
The Commerce City Police Department is one of the first agencies in the country with FAA permission to fly drones beyond an operator's line of sight. The new waiver issued by the FAA will allow the agency to stage drones at various locations throughout the city, then remotely launch them to respond to things like car chases or reports of gunshots. Police used the news capability for the first time Sunday, deploying a drone to help track down a suspect at Monaco Park.
It was an invaluable asset in that particular case, and that's what we're hoping to accomplish here. Catch the bad guys, keep everybody safe, and be a more effective policing.
The police chief says they'll use the drones only with probable cause, will not monitor areas where people expect privacy.
Aurora City Council will consider making police officers take an annual fitness test. Mayor Mike Kaufman says the new requirement would not apply to current officers, just new officers who get assigned to patrol. The mayor argues that patrol officers who are out of shape are more likely to get hurt on the job, and he says those officers are more likely to resort to using force during a confrontation. If this passes council, officers who join the force starting in 2026 would have to do that annual test.
A Fort Carson soldier arrested after a federal raid on a nightclub in Colorado Springs is expected to be released from jail tomorrow. 27-year-old Juan Gabriel Arona Rodriguez was arrested a few days after last month's raid. That's when the DEA says they found drugs, illegal guns, and dozens of people in the country without proper authorization. Arona Rodriguez is accused of selling cocaine. When he appeared in court today, a judge set conditions for his bond. That judge told him to be dressed for release when he is back in court tomorrow morning.
Drivers, truckers especially, will soon be able to pay to get help putting on and taking off chains along roads in Colorado. Democratic Governor Jared Polis signed the bill today, allowing third-party vendors and companies to set up roadside stations like they have in California. The hope is to help people without a lot of experience driving in winter weather and help them get those chains on so they don't create long delays, especially on I-70. Legislation also requires rental car companies notify renters about the state's traction laws and what happens if you break them. They're in place beginning of September through the end of May. The law is set to take effect later this year.
A Republican package that would make significant cuts to Medicaid could come together as early as tomorrow. It now has passed 11 House committees, but Republicans are still divided on the proposed changes to Medicaid. Some of that revolves around work requirements, which right now would start in 2029. Now, some Republicans are pushing for that to take effect 2 years sooner. The House GOP has to keep their counterparts in the Senate in mind because they can only lose 3 votes in that chamber because they have no hope of winning over Democrats. In the meantime, Coloradans are bracing for the impact of those proposed cuts.
9 News reporter Colton Chavez is in Adams County tonight, where public health leaders, Colton, heard from people worried about the future if Republicans are able to pass these Medicaid cuts.
Yeah, that's right, Colin. One of those people that I spoke with tonight was one woman who said that she rushed to pick her kids up from school just so she could make the 20-minute drive here to attend that meeting. And tonight, she says that she was speaking not only as a program manager, but also as a mother.
Thank you, everybody, for coming to our special meeting this evening.
Among the 80 million people currently enrolled in Medicaid across the U.S. are more than 1.1 million Coloradans, many of them in Adams and Jefferson counties.
The proposed congressional cuts to Medicaid would be catastrophic for the health of Adams and Jefferson County residents and our local economies.
All the families that we work with, they also have Medicaid.
Carla Olivas spoke at a meeting where health leaders opened up the floor for people to talk about the impact of potential Medicaid cuts.
Medicaid is really a lifeline for people.
Carla works for the nonprofit Kids in Need of Dentistry.
Yeah, it's something unthinkable. If we don't have Medicaid, all that reimbursement, it's our salaries, my team, my promotora teams, we are going to be very affected.
Other organizations, too, came to explain how essential Medicaid is to their operation.
Daily, we provide life-enhancing services such as therapy, medication, medical assistance.
It's not just businesses and nonprofits at risk, but families.
I have 4 children. One of them are still young. They are in the age that they need Medicaid.
Families like Carla's who rely on Medicaid coverage.
So for me, it will mean a lot. Maybe I'm going to have to find another job to cover for that. I have no words for the feeling that it is thinking about losing Medicaid.
At the end of the meeting, both the Adams County and Jefferson County Boards of Health signed a resolution in support of Medicaid. Live in Adams County tonight, Colton Chavez, 9 News.